A tragic and horrifying event. I think all of us were just sitting in awe, either watching at home, listening to the radio station, driving to wherever you were going. And obviously information is important, and we're here for you in that regard. We're going to be here all day, as we were yesterday, to get through this and to learn as much as we can. We not only have information here, but also on our website, WFSB.com, different types of details that you may need. As we do get through this story the day after, September 12th, almost 5:30, 58 degrees in Hartford right now. It is the day after. The dust literally has not settled yet on yesterday's terrorist attacks. Now, the first one happened almost 24 hours ago. A commercial jet crashed yesterday morning into one of the twin World Trade Towers in Lower Manhattan. Just minutes later, a second commercial jet crashed into the other tower. Then one after another, the towers crumbled to the ground. And as if that were not shocking and unbelievable enough, also yesterday at almost the same time, a third commercial jet crashed into the Pentagon in Washington. Crews there and in New York have been working around the clock, keeping those areas secure. Now, it will be a while before we have exact numbers on casualties. We do know that a total of 266 people were on board all four of the hijacked planes. Now, there were thousands of people both inside the World Trade Center and on the ground nearby. And the numbers that we do have so far are as devastating as you'd expect. In Washington, the government is estimating that as many as 800 people inside the Pentagon may be dead, but again, that's not confirmed. May be a while before it is. Still hope of finding survivors, though, both in Washington and in New York this morning. Let's get the latest live from Jennifer Jones.
Well, usually this time of morning, commuters are beginning to clog the roadways as they make their way into work. But today, there is an eerie calm about the streets of the nation's capital. You can still see smoke coming from the Pentagon and that gaping hole, just one part of the worst terrorist attack in U.S. history. This is the scene as crews continue to search for survivors and victims. A thick coating of dust covers the wasteland of twisted steel and rubble, the remains of what was once a shining symbol of America. Just yesterday, the screams of panic and faces of horror were like scenes from a movie. Real-life terror as two hijacked airliners carrying scores of passengers slammed into the Twin Towers of New York's World Trade Center.
Chaos. It's just chaos out here, it really is. So the Twin Towers fall. It's amazing. It's crazy.
Meanwhile, in Washington, the Pentagon also came under attack when a third hijacked plane crashed into the sprawling military complex, killing as many as 800 people. And yet, a fourth hijacked passenger plane was reduced to rubble after it crashed south of Pittsburgh, a final blow that may have spared the presidential retreat of Camp David, the alleged target. In the aftermath, President Bush made it clear that justice will prevail for those who are responsible.
We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them.
Back in New York, emergency crews are working at their grim task. While the full extent of the damage and loss of life remains unknown, the heart of America has been changed forever. Now, rescue workers have set up a makeshift morgue outside of the Pentagon as they pull bodies from the debris. Meanwhile, sources say the FBI is searching sites in Central and South Florida as they work and learn of information that placed supporters of Osama bin Laden aboard the crashed jets. That's the latest live from Washington. I'm Jennifer Jones. Now back to you.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Thanks so much, Jennifer, for that live report. As Jennifer just alluded, search crews are digging through the rubble of the World Trade Center this morning and will be for some time to come. Up to 11,000 firefighters were called to that chaotic scene. Now, some are charged with the grim task of searching for their colleagues. Channel 3's Tasha Jamerson is in New York City with the story. Good morning, Tasha.
Good morning, Ellie. Good morning, David. If I had to describe these people in truly simple terms, which is giving really no credit to them, in truly simple terms, I would say that they are undaunting. They're tireless, and I know that they hate to have this said about them because they do say it's their job. They truly are American heroes. This is what rescue crews are dealing with. Unbelievable destruction, almost unbearable carnage.
A whole lot of things. building was totally demolished. The bottom part of the building was in flames. The top part of the building was totally gone. And the second building collapsed later on in the afternoon. Everyone ran for cover, and it's about how it ended. It was totally devastating.
These men and women bravely dealing with that devastation that is now ingrained, burned into our history. The history Paula Trasellis doesn't know how she'll explain to her baby.
I'm thinking about the world, and I'm thinking about that it's so calm and quiet everywhere, and at the same time people might be buried alive, dying in this very moment, and I just wish I could help. I wish I could do something.
And I have to tell you that that is basically the feeling that you get here. I've been here since about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and you feel absolutely helpless. It also is, and I know that we're going to hear this all throughout the next couple of weeks, it truly is surreal. Take a look behind me. We have crews working, but it's also eerily empty on the streets of New York. I mean, it's something that I don't think anybody ever thought that they would see. My cameraman Peter and I were walking around last night. You know, we were told to go to bed early because we're going to be on the morning show. We couldn't do that. We had to walk around. We're walking down in the middle of the street. There was nobody there. There was no cars, nobody walking, but a few people on the streets. It truly is very eerie here. And again, you know, this devastation, I think, is going to start to hit home as the hours, as the days grow on us. But again, just truly eerie here. Ellie and David?
Tasha, earlier we heard reports of one person being rescued this morning, also that they're getting cell phone calls from people trapped inside the World Trade Centers. Have you heard anything about that?
Ellie, we have not even been able to get close to ground zero down there. What you're hearing is basically what we're hearing. Yeah, that yes, they are still getting cell phone calls, that they are continuing to dig through that rubble, that they are rescuing people. But I apologize, we just really have not been able to get down here. You see behind me, basically every street is blocked off, and it's virtually impossible to get down there.
All right, thank you so much, Tasha. Quite a different Manhattan.
Obviously, a lot of security precautions being taken. Thank you very much, Tasha. We'll be checking back in with Tasha later on this morning.
Now, hospitals across the state are prepared to treat the wounded victims coming from New York.
Some of those wounded are being treated now. Channel 3's Kevin Hogan joins us from Stanford with more on this part of the story. Kevin.
We're having technical problems. We apologize for that. We will try to reestablish connections with Kevin a little bit later on.
Hundreds of firefighters were killed yesterday while they were selflessly trying to save others at the World Trade Center.
In a show of solidarity, 22 Hartford firefighters have packed up and driven down to New York to do what they can to help. Before they left, the chief warned them their jobs will be hard.
You're going to see, I'm sure, thousands of people have lost their lives. Hundreds of them will be your brothers and sisters in the fire service. It is not going to be easy on you. I want you to keep yourself safe.
Hartford firefighters brought a ladder truck and rescue equipment. An EMS coordinator from Hartford Hospital is also in New York helping out this morning. Metro North rail service to New York is expected to return to a normal schedule today. Trains going to New York were stopped for a time yesterday, then only outbound trains were running.
Channel 3's Lee Ferlisi is at Union Station in New Haven this morning. Lee, this is really one of the most practical angles of this whole story, and that is getting around in a part of the country that can be the most difficult to travel. What can you tell us this morning?
Absolutely, David and Ellie. The train station behind me, as you can see here in Union Station, it's relatively quiet. There are very few people going to New York City. The commuters that I spoke to are going to stops along the line to get to work, and one of the main reasons they say they want to get on the train this morning is to see if their friends who normally travel to New York are on the train. Most of them only know these people by their first name. They don't know their last names. They have no way of contacting them, and their concern is that they are not on these trains. They're hoping that they're going to see these friendly faces. This station has also become a meeting point for many families as people are traveling from New York. I'm standing with two people here who actually did not ride a train. They took a cab from New York to here. It cost them $170 just to get this far. This is Jessica Snyder. You were on a subway yesterday when the explosion hit, when the planes hit the Twin Towers. What were your thoughts when you got out of the subway?
I was kind of in disbelief. I just had my headphones on and was walking to work from the subway station, and I heard it, and then I took my headphones off and people kept coming up to me and telling me the story, and just was in disbelief.
What could you see?
Just clouds of smoke in the horizon, and it was really eerily quiet on the street.
And you said what was even more frightening was trying to get back to Brooklyn, to your home in Brooklyn, and getting on the subway.
Yeah, because they blocked all the buses and the bridges and the tunnels, so I was stuck in Manhattan, and finally I took a subway, and it was so scary because it was deserted, and I felt so claustrophobic and got very panicky. And
it's frightening, I know. Yeah. This is Brennan Fitzgerald. What were your thoughts? You woke up at 9:15 to hear this in your Brooklyn apartment. What did you see? Did you see anything from your apartment?
Well, my friend called me just before I left for work, my roommate, and I probably would have just got on the subway and had ridden right underneath exactly when the building had collapsed, so I'm really thankful that somebody had been calling me.
Why did you guys take a taxi instead of getting on a train to come home?
I woke up and I felt like I was living in a different country. I felt like I was in Israel or someplace, and I don't think I'm ever going to be the same. I didn't feel safe walking down the street.
So you wanted to just get home as quickly as possible and jump in a cab?
It smelled so bad in Brooklyn from the ashes, and it was just a really bad feeling, so we left.
Well, we're glad that you're safe and sound. Thank you for joining us this morning. David and Ellie, I have other friends who also live in Brooklyn who said that debris and ash were just spread all over their lawns, that people were buying face masks to walk through the streets just so that they wouldn't have to breathe in the air that they were just talking about, how bad it smelled and the things that were in it. And also, I'm told that the trains are running on or close to schedule, so if anyone does need to get into Manhattan, there is a way to get there. Back to you.
All right, Lee, it was a powerful statement from Brenda, I think her name is. She said she felt like she was in a different country yesterday.
Yes, Brennan, yes, she did, and I think most people do feel that way.
All right, Lee, thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Lee for Lacey in New Haven this morning.
Talking about transportation, another big story today. All airports nationwide are still shut down this morning. That, of course, includes Bradley International. Airports will stay closed at least until noon today. Now, at Bradley, crews have been working to upgrade security there. They've installed jersey barriers around the perimeter of the terminal. Again, Bradley and airports are going to stay closed until at least noon today. So obviously we're going to be hearing later on this morning the latest on the status of the airports, but they're closed nationwide at least until noon today. That's the earliest the FAA will lift its ban on air travel.
Now, state offices were closed and state buildings were evacuated after the attacks. The State Office of Emergency Management has been set up at the State Armory.
Governor Rowland is expected to address the state from there at 7 o'clock this morning, about an hour and 15 minutes from now. Channel 3's Kara Sunland is at the Armory in downtown Hartford this morning with the latest. Good morning, Kara.
Good morning, David. Much is the same here as I left it when I left here late last night. We walked back in again this morning and were checked thoroughly by security, a place where we usually walk freely. They needed to see all our bags and IDs, whether or not they know us or not. We're waiting for the governor to talk to us again. As we've all been saying, it's almost as if this story is just too big to digest. It's difficult for all of this to sink in. But for our leaders and our military here, this day must go on. Governor Rowland says he will reopen all state and federal offices today. He is urging everyone to return to work and school. And in this darkest hour, the governor says it is a chance for Connecticut residents to shine for their neighbors in New York.
I believe that the people of Connecticut have the faith and the resolve to get through this crisis and to help our neighbors in New York. And I'm counting on them. This will be Connecticut at its best, reaching out to our neighbors and to our Connecticut residents that have been impacted by this tragedy.
Certainly the Connecticut residents who've been impacted most, it's those who have friends and family, and many of us do in New York, and he acknowledged that the frustrating part may be just waiting and trying to communicate with those that you know and love in New York City. We know that a lot of the cell phone towers were knocked down that were on top of the World Trade Center. I myself have still had difficulty contacting friends, as I'm sure a lot of the people here have talked about that. He urged everyone to be patient. There was some talk of getting a 1-800 number going, going, but he said it's just too difficult to get that information from New York. So for now, Connecticut residents need to be patient. And he says informal communication is the best way. He's also, again, just urging everyone to stay strong.